Summer nights carry a strange duality. For most people, they are memories of laughter, fireflies, and the sweet comfort of air still warm long after the sun has dipped below the horizon. But there is another side to summer nights. A side that is darker, quieter, and hungrier. It lurks in the woods just beyond the glow of campfires, hides behind the stillness of lakes, and creeps along winding backroads where headlights never seem bright enough. This story begins with three friends, Mark, Jenna, and Tyler. They had grown up in the same small town, restless souls bound together by years of late-night adventures. Every summer they had a tradition: they would pick one weekend in July to leave everything behind, drive deep into the countryside, and find a secluded spot to camp. It was supposed to be their way of reclaiming youth, of running away from responsibilities for just a little while. That particular summer, their chosen destination was different. Mark had heard about a lake 2 hours north, hidden away off old county roads surrounded by thick forests. Few people visited it anymore. He claimed he stumbled across it online while scrolling through forgotten hiking forums, where one post in particular caught his attention. It wasn't a description of the lake's beauty or fishing spots or trails. It was a warning. The post was simple. If you go to Lake Merrow, don't stay after dark. Don't camp there. People don't come back the same if they come back at all. Tyler, the skeptic of the group, had laughed it off. Some backwoods boogeyman story. He scoffed. Jenna, on the other hand, felt uneasy from the beginning. She had always trusted her instincts, and something about the phrasing of the post unsettled her. But Mark insisted. He framed it as the perfect place, untouched, unspoiled, private. No noise, no people, just them and the water beneath the stars. And so, they packed up their car with tents, sleeping bags, coolers full of cheap beer, and drove out late Friday afternoon. As the town lights gave way to endless stretches of farmland and pine groves, Jenna couldn't shake a gnawing sense of unease. She pressed her forehead against the window, watching as the road narrowed into cracked asphalt flanked by trees so dense they swallowed the fading daylight. By the time they pulled into the dirt trail leading to the lake, the air was heavy with the sound of cicadas. The forest seemed to close in around them, shadows stretching long and deep. The trail itself was barely visible, more like an animal path than a road. Tyler grumbled as branches scraped against the car, leaving faint white streaks along the paint. And then, suddenly, the trees parted. Before them lay Lake Merrow. The surface was still glass-like, reflecting the fiery orange of the last light of day. It was beautiful in a way that was unsettling, too perfect, too silent. There were no birds on the water, no ripples from fish, no evidence of life at all. Just stillness. They parked near the shore, their tires crunching over gravel. Mark clapped his hands together and said, "See, perfect spot, totally private." He was right about that. There was no one around. No cabins, no other campers, not even a distant echo of civilization. As they began setting up camp, Jenna caught something at the edge of her vision. A figure, maybe, across the lake, standing between two trees. She froze, squinting through the dimming light, but when she blinked, the spot was empty. She told herself it was just shadows playing tricks on her eyes. The sun slipped fully below the horizon, and with it came an oppressive darkness. They lit a fire, its glow flickering against their faces as the woods pressed in. Tyler cracked open a beer and said, "All right, Mark, tell us the ghost story. You know that's why you brought us here." Mark smirked, tossing another log into the flames. "Actually, there's more than one story." The way he said it made Jenna shiver. He leaned forward, voice lowering into a tone that was both playful and serious. "They say Lake Merrow is cursed. People tell stories about this place. Different stories, but they all end the same, bad. Want to hear them?" The fire crackled. The woods seemed to fall silent, as if waiting. And in that moment, the three friends began their descent into a night they would never forget. Mark cleared his throat, eyes glinting in the firelight. "The first story," he began, "is about an old cabin on the far side of this lake. A cabin people say no one should ever step inside. The woods groaned with the sound of shifting branches, though the air was still. The night was just beginning. The fire burned low, casting long shadows across the uneven ground. Beyond its glow, the darkness was absolute, swallowing the outlines of the trees and the still surface of the lake. The air was warm, yet Jenna shivered as if a cold draft brushed against her skin. Mark's voice carried steady over the crackle of burning wood as he continued weaving his tale. "They say the cabin was built in the 1920s, a hunting lodge at first. But over the years things happened there. Strange things. One family who owned it in the 40s vanished overnight. Food still on the table, lights still on. Just gone, the property stood empty for decades. When hikers stumbled across it in the 70s, they found claw marks on the inside of the doors. As if something was trying to keep people out or keep something in." Tyler smirked, rolling his eyes, but his grip on his beer tightened. "Claw marks. Come on, man. That's textbook ghost story material." Mark raised a brow, his expression unchanging. "I'm just telling you what I read. But it doesn't stop there. The cabin is said to draw people in. They go in curious, but not all of them come back. And those who do, they don't talk about what they saw. They just stop speaking altogether." The fire snapped loudly, sending sparks spiraling into the night. Jenna pulled her knees to her chest, eyes darting toward the shadows on the far side of the lake. That earlier glimpse of movement still haunted her mind. She whispered, "Do you think it's still there? The cabin? Mark glanced across the water. Supposedly,
Yeah.
the ruins at least. If you follow the shoreline trail, you'll find it. The thought of leaving the safety of their fire sent an unspoken unease through the group. No one volunteered to test the story. Instead, the three sat in silence for a moment, listening to the endless drone of cicadas. Then it stopped. Not faded, not dwindled. The sound cut off all at once, as if the night itself had been muted. The sudden absence of noise was suffocating. Tyler frowned, looking around. That's weird. Did you guys notice? A whisper cut him off. It wasn't clear or loud. It drifted faintly across the lake, carried by no wind. A voice, low and indistinct, like the sound of someone speaking from underwater. Jenna's breath caught in her throat. Did you hear that? She asked. Mark froze, his expression grim.
Yeah.
Tyler forced a laugh, but it was brittle. Probably just an echo, or someone camping nearby. But deep down, he knew that wasn't true. There had been no sign of other people anywhere near this lake. The road itself had been abandoned, nearly swallowed by the forest. They were alone, or at least they had thought they were. The whisper came again, louder this time. Still impossible to make out, but it had the cadence of words. A voice calling, beckoning. Jenna gripped her arms tightly. It sounds like it's coming from the water, she said, her voice trembling. Mark stood abruptly, eyes scanning the dark surface of the lake. Nothing stirred. The water was as still as glass, reflecting the faint glow of the firelight. He turned back to his friends. Maybe we should just go to bed. It's late. Reluctantly, they agreed. They doused the fire until only embers glowed faintly, then retreated into their tent. The nylon walls felt paper thin against the vastness of the forest. Inside, the air was hot and still, but no one complained. Jenna lay awake, her eyes wide in the dark. Every creak of the trees, every rustle of grass outside made her heart pound harder. She tried to focus on the steady breathing of her friends, but then she heard it again. The whisper clearer now, closer. It wasn't outside, it was right next to the tent. Her breath caught as she strained to hear. A single word floated through the fabric, so faint she thought she might be imagining it. Come. Janna's eyes burned with fear. She wanted to shake Mark awake, wanted to scream, but her body was paralyzed with terror. And then, just as suddenly as it had come, the sound vanished. Silence reclaimed the night. She didn't sleep at all. At dawn, when pale light broke through the trees, Mark and Tyler woke refreshed, unaware of what she had endured. Jenna said nothing, not yet. She only stared out at the still water, her stomach twisting with dread. For across the lake, half hidden by mist, she swore she could see the faint outline of a cabin waiting. The morning broke with a heavy, pale light that filtered weakly through the dense canopy. Mist still clung stubbornly to the water's surface, as if the lake itself were reluctant to release the secrets it had kept through the night. Tyler stretched, rubbing the sleep from his eyes, and stepped outside the tent. He inhaled the sharp scent of damp pine and the faint smokiness left behind by their fire. Man, this place is creepy in daylight, too, he muttered. Mark was crouched near the cold ashes, poking at them absent-mindedly. It's quiet here, too quiet. Jenna emerged last. Her skin was pale, her eyes ringed with sleepless shadows. She hadn't told them what she heard, that whisper pressing through the fabric of the tent like invisible fingers. How could she? They'd think she was imagining it, just like they'd dismissed the movement in the trees. Still, her gaze lingered on the far side of the lake, where she had seen that faint, shadowy outline of a cabin. Now, in the daylight, it seemed to have vanished. Tyler followed her line of sight. You're still thinking about his ghost story, huh? He smirked, nudging her. Tell you what, let's go check it out. If there's a creepy old cabin, I want to see it. Mark hesitated, but his silence spoke volumes. He wanted to see it too. He wanted proof. Something that would turn his own story from folklore into something real. By late morning, they were packed lightly with water bottles, flashlights, and a nervous curiosity that grew with each step along the trail. The forest seemed to close in around them as they moved. The chirping of birds was sporadic, and every so often, the underbrush rustled with the sudden flight of unseen creatures. The path they followed was hardly a trail anymore, just a suggestion of one, swallowed by moss and weeds. The deeper they went, the stronger the air smelled of damp wood and decay. After nearly an hour, they saw it. The cabin, it stood hunched beneath the heavy shadows of oaks, its roof sagging under years of neglect. Dark planks of rotting wood clung desperately to its frame. The windows were gaping holes, some shattered, others boarded over with warped, splintering wood. The door hung askew, one hinge broken, swaying slightly though no breeze stirred the air. Tyler whistled low. Well, damn. Didn't think it would actually be here. Jenna's throat tightened as she took in the sight. In the daylight, the cabin should have looked harmless, just another abandoned building. But something about it radiated unease, as though the structure itself was alive, watching them approach. Mark stepped closer, brushing moss from the frame. His hand hovered near the door. You feel that? He asked softly. Jenna frowned. What? He didn't answer. Instead, he pushed the door open. The sound it made was unbearable, a groan that seemed to echo from the ground beneath them, vibrating through their bones. Dust filled the air, thick and choking, carrying the scent of mildew and something metallic, like rust or dried blood. Inside the cabin was a skeleton of what it had once been. The floorboards sagged underfoot. Broken furniture lay scattered, their forms barely recognizable beneath layers of grime. Faded wallpaper clung in strips to the walls, revealing blackened wood beneath. Then they noticed the carvings. Etched into nearly every surface, walls, door frames, the remains of tables and chairs, were symbols, jagged lines that spiraled into unfamiliar patterns. Circles intersected with crude marks, like someone had desperately repeated them over and over, gugging deeper each time. Tyler knelt, tracing one with his finger. What the hell is this? Some kind of cult stuff. Don't touch it. Jenna snapped, the words out before she could stop herself. Her voice echoed strangely in the cabin, as though the walls themselves repeated it back in whispers. Mark's face was pale, his brow furrowed as he examined the symbols. It's not random. Someone meant something with this. He turned, his flashlight catching on something in the corner. Look, a chair. It was upright, positioned in the center of the room, facing nothing. Its wood was darker than the rest, almost black with age. Rope dangled loosely from its arms and legs, frayed but unmistakable. Beside it, scattered across the floor, were more claw marks, deep gouges that tore straight through the wood. The three of them stared at it in silence. Tyler broke it with a forced laugh.
Okay, yeah, creepy chair.
Creepy symbols. Somebody was just messing around. The sound cut him off a shuffle. From upstairs. They froze, all eyes turned to the staircase at the back of the room. It was half collapsed, but still intact enough to lead to the second floor. Dust drifted down lazily, disturbed by something that had moved above them. Jenna's pulse thundered in her ears. We're not alone, she whispered. Mark's jaw tightened. Stay here, he muttered, stepping toward the stairs. Tyler grabbed his arm. Are you insane? Whatever that is, it doesn't want us here. But Mark's eyes were locked on the staircase, his expression unreadable. And I want to know what it is. He placed his foot on the first step. The wood creaked loudly, a sound that seemed to echo through the empty cabin. Jenna's breath caught, her instincts screaming at her to run. From above came another shuffle, followed by the faint sound of breathing. Slow, ragged, inhuman. The three friends stood frozen at the threshold of discovery, or disaster.